So, Slaine, what's going on with you? Well, how's your summer been?
It's been amazing, man. I've just, I've been a lot of baseball with my son, a lot of recording my album in the studio. I wrote a screenplay. I'm working on getting that made. So, balance, Danny.
So, screenplay, recording, is there something coming out soon that we should keep our eye out for?
Yes.
Keep our ears open for?
Yep. I'm gonna be back at it with the music. You know, I've had a long career. I've put a lot of stuff out, and I'm confident this is my best work.
This is your best work?
Absolutely.
Why would you? What makes it your best work?
It's inspired. I mean, I took a year off last year from music, the first time in my life, to really study acting, because I had put so much time. You know, I'm talking 60 to 100 hours a week for over a decade on the music, and what I realized is that I'd never put in that kind of time with the acting. And I have a natural talent for it, but I'd never studied the craft. So I really took some time last year to do that, and I studied screenwriting because I knew I was going to write a screenplay. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to invest some time on that side of things. Plus, you know, I felt myself in a place of, you know, you never want to get comfortable in your art. You know what I mean? When you get to that place, that means you're repeating yourself. So I needed to step away for a little while. And when I came back this year and started recording, I just felt re-inspired. I had some different stuff going on in my life, and I kind of have a new perspective, a new clarity, a new dedication to my writing process, and I'm really happy with the results. So I'm excited for people to hear the new record.
How much help do you get? Like when you say study the film industry, is that what we're calling it?
No, I studied the craft of acting. So I went to a place called Nancy Banks Acting Studio in Hollywood, and she works with a lot of actors, and I worked with a guy named Daniel Travis, and studied out of plays because I've primarily done film, and it's a lot shorter work. So, you know, when you study it, when you work in plays, like, you know, some of the scenes are 8-10 pages long. You got to memorize the whole thing, and you know, but you have a lot more room to study character and kind of the arc in a scene. In one particular scene is a lot longer than it is in film or television.
So when did you do this? Go to this school?
I did that so 2018, and it's part of this year too.
And so you were in plays?
No. This was more. I was in class.
You were in class. So I didn't know if they turned that into throwing you into a play.
No, but I might do that again soon. You know, the problem with doing plays is, you know, I got bills to pay, and I gotta. And it's not as lucrative as some other stuff. Okay. But someday I'll probably do some work in plays.
What's the biggest thing that you learned? Because you've had some big roles, some good roles in some big movies.
Yeah.
You know, somebody just came up to me a couple weeks ago and mentioned you and said they saw the scene with you and The Rock.
Right.
And I think they were, how do I put this? I don't know that they were like shocked that you were in that spot. But they were like, oh, like that's cool. You know, the fact that all of the things that you have on your resume, you now have a moment where you're in a pretty big scene with The Rock.
Yeah.
And he's, the biggest actor in Hollywood, right?
And Kevin Hart. The Rock and Kevin Hart.
Kevin Hart.
Which is why I took that, by the way, because it's a smaller role than I generally take. But, you know, when you have a 10-year-old son, you know, doing a scene with The Rock and Kevin Hart, you can't really turn that down. Not that I wanted to turn that down anyways, but yeah, it was cool, man. It was cool working, and that guy is a pro. He's a pro. He's really, I was really impressed with him. He's everything that you see on. There's no bullshit in his game. That's the way he is in real life. Is the way you see him on social media and on TV and everything. Really high energy guy, very focused and driven, smart dude.
But you've been in these roles in these huge movies. And so I look at that and I go, well, what else do you have to learn? Like,
well,
what would
here's
you learn?
The thing.
So what's the,
you know,
like,
I never studied it because, you know, Affleck told me after the town, if you ever go to acting school, I'll never hire you again. And he said that as a compliment to my natural ability, I think. And I think he liked that about me, is that I kind of was raw. And, you know, a lot of directors, I think, don't like when you come in with the process that's learned and stuff like that, and you kind of just use your instincts. You can't teach instincts. But as I started progressing, I realized there were certain things that I could play really well. like anybody can. Everybody has kind of a wheelhouse, but you know, I found like some of my accent, while it might be beneficial in roles like The Town and Gone Baby Gone, when I'm reading for other stuff, it was more difficult. So that's also one of the things I did. I worked with a dialect coach so I could go in and out of different accents. And it also helped me with my recording process, because as part of that, I learned the whole tool, you know, of the diaphragm and, you know, kind of speaking from my stomach and projecting for the back wall like you do in a play, which is different in a film. But so there's all different aspects of it. But I think part of one of the most important things I learned was, it was something I had a bad habit of doing, was I was memorizing the intention. So when I'd memorize dialogue, I was attached to what the intention of what the actor was saying was. So when I memorized dialogue, I would memorize it by listening to it. I would do the scene, I would listen back, and it was a quick way for me to memorize dialogue. It's how I've always memorized lyrics. It's a mistake, because if you have to do it a different way, your brain will only remember it the way that you heard it, the way that you've said it repeatedly. So I learned how to memorize and wrote by writing it down, and that way I can adapt the line to 100 different ways, whatever the scene calls for. Because you might go in with something and then you work on it with the director, but if you have it memorized a certain way, it's hard to deliver it a different way. So I mean, that was just one of the things, but there's a lot of stuff, man. I came to a point with it where it's like, I don't know everything about this, and I think there's nothing wrong with sharpening your tools, you know what I'm saying? And the practice of doing it every day, because when you're acting, you can go months without acting, you know what I'm saying? You can go a year without acting. Well, I'm out touring and doing music, so I just try to get into a daily routine now where I stay sharp with it, you know what I'm saying? I try to do a little something geared towards it every day, whether it's reading something or reading screenplays or plays or whatever. I just try to kind of stay in tune with that aspect of what I'm doing.
So Affleck told you, never go to an acting school. If you do, I will never have you in another one of my movies. He told you that right after The Town?
He told me that when we were shooting The Town. But I talked to him later. I mentioned that to him. He was like, "Oh, I was just giving you a compliment." So it was
he was just
I took it to heart, and I was, because one of my managers years ago was like, "You should go take," and I was like, "I can't do that."
Ben told me not to do that.
Ben told me not to do it. I'm not fucking with my shit.
So you've talked to Ben since, and you told him you're doing this.
Yeah, and he told me he was busting my balls about saying that. Although I have talked to some other directors who are against it too. You know,
we're against acting classes.
Yeah,
and well, the whole accent thing is funny because people listening to this are going, "Danny, you should go to that class. The accent, you should get rid of that accent." And to that, I guess I just kind of say, well, fuck you, no. Because
it's part of what you do too. I mean,
I'm not in a movie. I'm in a real. This is a real life, real personality. I'm showing you who I am.
Right,
I'm giving you raw reaction. You're playing a role.
But I had a similar experience where, like, part of my brand and it's who you are. That's your real accent. Yeah. My real accent is a Boston accent.
Yep.
So I think that becomes who you are, becomes part of your brand. So people don't want to see you go outside of that. But when you're an actor, you have to. So you have to learn. I mean, I posted something on social media about going to a dialect coach, and I can't tell you how many Twitter comments were like, sell out. Why are you changing your accent? It's like, nah, you need to be able to do different things.
People are saying that, but the minute that
people are dickheads.
Yeah, but you know what? If you went on social media and you said someone told me to go to that and I said no, you know what the comments would be? They would say, "Oh, you sound terrible. You should go lose the accent." Like, that's what it would be.
Yeah.
So people are always going to
Bottom line is you can't worry about what other people say.
No, we had this conversation off the air earlier. You can't worry about what people on social media are saying about you, because that will drive you absolutely fucking bonkers.
Oh, insane. And chances are it's just some miserable prick who's in his mother's basement somewhere.
Yeah. So don't worry about that. But that's I didn't know that you were going through all that stuff.
Yeah, man. I mean, this is what I do for a living. The music and the acting, and I have a very unstructured day if I don't structure it with different things. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of things I have to do to work and to run my business and do all that, but I also have to take care of staying sharp with my craft and what I do, and progressing and getting better, because you can't do the same thing in 2019 that you were doing in 2009. It doesn't work like that. You have to progress and grow and change.
Now, do you ever reach out? Do you reach out to other actors and say, "Hey, I went to this I'm trying to put myself in your shoes. Like, all right, you go to this acting class. There's still some questions I have, but maybe I should ask those questions to, some of the stars that I've worked with.
No.
Like, would those people be open? Like, could you call Ben, and would he be open to giving you...
I think actors love to talk about acting, and that's part of the value of this class. So, the class is a lot of other working actors. So...
Big names?
There's not... Some, but there's not.
Could you give a big name that's in it with you?
I don't want to.
You can't give that away.
I don't like to take other people's inventory. But
are people ashamed of this? Would they be ashamed?
No,
of it?
I don't think so. But I don't. It ain't my place to do that.
Yeah, it's not your place. All right.
But but I think a lot of working actors do it to stay sharp. And part of the value of there's no right and wrong answer. There are choices that you make when you're an actor, how you're going to play a certain thing. But it's interesting to see how different people do different things, and it's also. It's just smart to surround yourself with other like-minded people who are in the same field. Like, I hang out with a lot of other rappers and MCs and people who make music for a living just by virtue of doing it. And, as with anything, there's a certain savvy that comes with being in the game for a long time or recording, and there's certain things that only other artists understand, and you can learn and talk and and shed some light on stuff to some younger artists or whatever. But it's all it's part of it.
All right, well, that's cool. And I look forward to seeing the projects that you have coming down. So you screenplay.
I'm gonna try to direct it myself.
You're gonna try to direct the whole thing yourself. Now, do you have to go to another school to learn how to do that, or is that kind of...
No, I mean, part of it has also been, I watch what people do, I watch how it's done and all that.
You've been on the scene enough to know, like, do you pick things from certain directors and go, I like how he's handling that.
I think so.
And I'll take that. I don't like how he's handling that. I'm not going to do that.
I think so. And I think part of it is, knowing your strengths and weaknesses in different areas. But the reason I wrote this screenplay is because I felt like I'm only getting cast in certain roles. People see you a certain way, and that's what you get cast as. But I'm capable of other stuff. So I wrote this. It's something way out of the box for me. It's a comedy. It's kind of like a family road trip comedy movie, and I don't think anyone else would cast me in it. And I think if I sold the screenplay, they would cast somebody else in it. And I think if I gave it to another director, they'd want a movie star in the role that I want to play. So I'm going to direct it myself, and I'm going to raise the money, and I'm going to shoot it myself.
Okay.
And that's what I've always done in my career. I didn't wait for a major label to give me a record deal. I didn't wait for somebody to do something for me, because nobody's going to do shit for you, as you know, with what you do.
As I know.
And you have to build your own lane. And part of building your own lane is you got to take on extra responsibilities. You were setting up the cameras before this, the microphone, the audio feed, because who's going to make it happen for you except for you?
Nobody else.
And that's what I learned in this. And I found myself at a place a few years ago where I'm going in and auditioning for roles and auditioning. It's like I'm going in to audition for a job with people that see me a certain way, that maybe don't have the biggest imagination or capacity for what I know that I can do. Mm-hmm. So in order to give myself the opportunity that I want, then I have to build it. And, that's what I'm trying to do right now.
Me and you are I feel like on the same road, only, taking different exits to eventually to different careers, but we're both on the same road. We're both kind of building it ourselves, I guess you could say. It is a do-it-yourself world.
Yeah.
And the way I look at it is it's do-it-yourself with multimedia. So I got the podcast, I'm doing video. I'm a columnist as well. I write. But I guess are you trying to prove that so is the film industry? It also now can be a do-it-yourself
it absolutely
world.
is. I think everything is, man. I mean, for all the downside of the internet and the stuff we were talking about, I think the good part of it is that we have the tools at our disposal to do things ourselves. And good art finds a way, man. Or if you have a passion to do something and you work hard at it and you use the resources at your disposal, I'm confident that you can build things like that. I'm confident that you can build momentum in that direction. I've done it before with music, and
something that you said a few minutes ago, though, that I feel like I can also relate to is people in your industry see you as a certain way. And because of that, they wouldn't cast you in the role that you're now going to cast yourself in the screenplay that you're writing. And so you're just going to do it all yourself. They see you in a certain way. And you feel like, in a way, that's held you back in certain
1000%.
spots in the past. How do they, like, what is that way? How do they see you?
I mean, it's tough for me to say how other people see me, but
you know, and I feel that with me in my industry, too. They see me a certain way. And in a way, I have felt at times victimized. Like I'm a victim of something. I don't know what. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know what. You can't really put your finger on it. You think you might know, but then you see something else happen where someone gets this, and you're like, well, then I guess it can't be what I thought it was. So what is it? Like, there's a way that people see me, and there's nothing that I can do to change their minds on that. So, again, that's why I'm doing it all myself. I'm sort of forced to do it all myself. And you feel the same way in your industry.
Well, I
but
think
what is that? Have you put your finger on what that is, how they feel about it?
I think it's several things, but I think ultimately we're in a world that has other forces at work. So we're not connected into these businesses because my dad was a film director, or somebody in your family was big in the radio game or works at Radio 1 or whatever.
National Grid has no pull in the sports radio industry.
So we really have to come in as an outside entity. And I think, unfortunately, there's a lot of nepotism. There's also political trends at work where we need this kind of person or this kind of person for this job, and we need to service this demographic. And we're not in that at this time. We're not included in what...
We're not in the clique.
We're not in the good old boy network, number one, but we're also not in what the kind of political tide is pushing for their agenda neither, on either side of it. I don't think we work with either model. So I think that has to be taken into consideration, because you can't just push forward with your goal without recognizing what's going on in the world at the same time. And
if you recognize that you're not in that group, or as I've said before, like in that clique and that group of people, you can't just stay in that bubble knowing that you're never going to be a part of that group, because you'll never be able to get to where you want to go. And so, you have to look out for yourself. And you
got to get your own juice.
You have to make decisions that are not the most popular decisions in other people's eyes, but you have to make those decisions knowing that there are people that don't have what's in your best interest in mind. And you need to do, you need to make decisions based on your own best interest.
Right. Nobody has your best interest in mind except for you.
No.
And nobody knows what you can do except for you. So if you believe in yourself and you're true to yourself and who you are, and I think you can, especially if you represent something bigger than yourself, and you can get the people on board with you that kind of fit into what you do, because there are people that fit into what you do and what I do that want to see you succeed and that are interested in what you do. And I think if you're true to yourself, then the people will come. It's like the Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come.
If you build it, they will come. Well, we're both building, and I am excited to see what you are currently building right now, both on the film side and in the music side. Because I think the last time you were promoting something in here was La Coca Nostra.
Yep.
Right?
Yep, and I've done records with those guys for a long time. They're my brothers, but I've also done my solo stuff, and every project has to be its own world. You know what I mean? You build its own world around it, and I've learned a lot from all the people in my career. I've been mentored by people that I idolized growing up, whether it's like Everlast, Danny Boy, and DJ Lethal from House of Pain, or even just working with Ben or Brad Pitt and those guys. And I've always taken the opportunity to kind of listen to what they had to say and watch how they worked and watch what they do across the board with everyone, including Be Real from Cypress Hill and Muggs from Cypress Hill, and just watching the way those guys operated. And, the thing that they're all bosses. They're not workers. They don't work for other people. They build their own thing, and that's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
It's the only way to do it, in my estimation. So
all right, so
it takes longer like that too. You know, like
of course.
Don't get me wrong. I would love if somebody wrote me a big check to come and make my movie with the company, and I can start next Wednesday. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that's not the way it works. I gotta build it.
It's not. You got to build it, and like I said, I can relate to that.